Hey everybody, welcome to another Green Dragon Gaming Club video. Without us, they never feel like winners. Without them, we couldn't look so good. This is another Pretty Boy video. It's not a battle report, it's just a video. It's been quite a long time since I've been doing these, and I do apologize for my hiatus. For those of you that know me, my life is kind of busy and I've got a wacky schedule. No excuse though, I'm going to try to be on here more often. But moving on today, I am not doing a battle report, I'm doing a talk about Orcs and Goblins. So specifically what I want to talk about is the design process that goes into the Orcs and Goblins army book, as well as, the process that goes into other army books, but this is suited for the Orc and Goblin community. And I want to talk about what is being worked on. The reason I'm doing this video is Orcs and Goblins are my favorite army. They're my first army. And I see that it's fallen behind some of the other army books in terms of internal balance. Internal balance meaning that you're kind of lacking options for competitive builds when it comes to tournaments. This is not a rant video. I'm not a doomsayer or anything like that. I don't think it's an unplayable book. I don't think it's not a fun book or anything like that. But I will say, because I do have other armies, that when I go to list build for, say, my Dread Elves or my Vampires or my Ogres, I'm a little overwhelmed by the number of competitive builds that I can take when I'm getting ready for a tournament. Whereas for Orcs and Goblins, there's a lot of units that are maybe suboptimal or don't have a real clear role in the book, and because of that, even though we have so many more units than a lot of the other army books, we don't have that many competitive builds, and that's why I really haven't been playing with them that much, is because I can't play with them the way that I would like to. But instead of complaining about it or just not playing with them, I decided to get involved. So I am the newest ACS member for the Orc and Goblin Army book. So that's why I'm doing this video as well. For those of you that don't know, the other ACS members for Orcs and Goblins are James McDonald and Michael O. Now, we're all relatively new ACS members. I'm brand new. I just came in a couple weeks ago. But I know James and Michael have not been on the team very long either. I will say, though, not having known these gentlemen very long, from joining the team and looking at the work that they've really done a great job of trying to advocate for Orcs and Goblins and make the book better, and make it better in terms of not what they think, but what the community wants, and that's what's important. So anyway, I want to talk about how this process works, because I'm learning about it as I just joined the team, and I want to create a little more transparency with the community, to get the information out there of how things from army books get changed. How does the community input affect this change? And I'm doing this because, again, I think a lot of people out there are, maybe paranoid's too strong of a word, but they have strong inclinations that their voices are not being heard, their opinions don't matter, or they're just a little confused about how the process works. So some of you may already know how this process works. If so, just bear with me. And then after I go through this at the end, I'm going to just talk about some of the things that I know are being addressed in the Orc and Goblin book, without giving too specific information, but we'll go over that later. So anyway, what is ACS? Army Community Support. That's what it stands for. We're like the ninth age middlemen. We are the middlemen between you, the community, and the quote-unquote higher-ups, the people that actually are in charge of making direct changes in the book and in the rules. So our job is to answer any questions, in this case about the Orc and Goblin book, that the community might have specific questions. And our main job is really to talk with you, the community, and get feedback. Gather data based on what you like, what you don't like about the book, things that you might like to see with the Army book going forward, any changes, that kind of thing. And we take that information, And we'll discuss it with you, obviously, in the forums, but we're going to take that information and we're going to communicate it to these other parts of the process, these other entities that are going to have some say in the design changes that go on in the book. So we're going to make arguments on your behalf for what you would want in the Working Goblin book. Now, we can come up with ideas as well, but there again, it's going to be based on what the community's feedback is, and then we'll communicate it again to those same parties. But just to be clear, I, along with the other ACS members, we do not actually have direct power over changes in the Army book. We just can communicate the ideas to the appropriate people. So who are these people? This is ADT. This is Army Design Team. So obviously they're directly in charge of making design changes to all the books, but right now we're talking about Orc and Goblins. These are the guys that are going to be actually making design proposals for the book, right? So this means a lot of things. For instance, I don't know, I'll pick something arbitrary like Grotlings, okay? And this is a completely random example. Don't take this seriously, but if the community is communicating with us on the forums that Grotlings are underpowered and they wanted to see some boosts of some kind, you know, we might discuss with you guys what you would like to see different, why are Grotlings underpowered, etc. And then we might come up with ideas based on that for possible changes that would help Grotlings become more powerful. So for instance, if you said that Grotlings are not resilient enough, maybe I take that data and I say, you know, maybe a good change for Grotlings would be, let's increase their defensive skill. And so I would go to the ADT with that and say, hey, this is what the community's saying. They're saying Grotlings are underpowered. Let's increase the defensive skill of Grotlings. Now, the ADT guy might say, that's great. The ADT team might talk about it and they might say, you know, I think this is a really good idea, and they implement that as a design change proposal. Or they might come back to me and say, you know what, we agree that a change needs to be made, they need to be more defensive, but we don't like the defensive skill part, or we know that other entities, other teams are not going to like that change, so why don't we come up with a different idea to increase the resiliency of Grotlings? So we might form some type of compromise. Or they just flat out say no, and we go back to the drawing board. All these things are possible. So in essence, what I'm trying to say is that there's a working relationship between ACS, Army Community Support, and Army Design Team, which are the people that are in charge of the actual design changes for each Army book, and including Orcs and Goblins. Okay? So let's say for now, my brilliant idea of increasing the defensive skill for Grotlings based on community feedback goes through and the Army Design Team approves of it. Well then, let's see where it goes next. The next place where this goes would be to the rules team, which is pretty self-explanatory. These are the rules people. They are in charge of all things rules. So again, just to reiterate, you, the community, say Grotlings are underpowered. I, as the ACS member, communicate with you and try to get some clarification on why they're underpowered, and you think it has to do with resiliency. I make a proposal idea, and the ADT happens to accept it. Okay, doesn't matter. Even if they didn't accept it, let's say they came up with their own idea for it. There's a design implementation that's going to happen that they put forward. Well, now it has to go through rules team. The rules team has to look at it and make sure, you know, it's not going to break the game or anything like that. They're going to weigh in on their decision. And if they think it's okay, then it goes through to the last step, which is the BLT. And no, this is not the sandwich. This is the balancing team. This is a very important step. The balancing team, for those of you that don't know, are in charge of pricing everything. That's their job. So they might say, well, if you want this change, that's fine, but we're going to increase the price of Grotlings by 5 points. Now, nothing is set in stone yet, so we're still in the discussion, and we might, as ACS, ADT, whomever, we might get that feedback and say, you know what, we're not sure if a 5-point increase is really worth, is worth it for the changes that we want. You know what, if you're absolutely adamant about increasing the price, then maybe it's not worth making the changes. Or we might say, that's fine. Or we might go back to the drawing board and try something else. But it's all a part of the process. We're all in communication with each other at these different points, meaning BLT, ADT, ACS, RT. All the people involved on these teams are all in communication throughout the process. But the BLT is the last stop, so to speak. They're the ones that are going to price whatever design changes are being made. And this could be, they might keep the price the same, they could increase the price, they could decrease the price. So pretty straightforward. Hopefully I was clear on how this process works, and for those of you that weren't familiar with it, you learned something new. But the point that I'm trying to make in explaining this is, so now that you're more informed, understand that the opinions you give us really matter, because we're using your feedback to argue on your behalf with all these other people that are in charge of the design changes. So I want to make it very clear, message me on the boards if you have something that you feel strongly about. I want to be as approachable as possible. Again, I'm Pretty Boy on the 9th Age forums, capital P, capital B. Just message me, really. Michael O and James are also really accessible. There's a bunch of forums open for Orcs and Goblins. Go on and participate. Give your feedback. I know that there are other people that have done videos about Orcs and Goblins before. I'm thinking about, Chai Hammer and Wargaming from the Balcony, and I know these guys well. They're great contributors to trying to improve the Orc and Goblin book as well. But at the end of this ramble, all I'm saying is get on there, get your voice into the forums, and tell us what you like, what you don't like, what's not working, what needs to be changed, so that we can do something about it. And the only word of caution I'll say here is, do not fix what ain't broke, so to speak. We don't want to make changes for the sake of making changes. So also tell us what you like. That way we can protect it from being something that gets changed in the future. I think that's something important to keep in mind. But anyway, I'll go on to the next part, which is I think the part that a lot of you might care about, is what is actually being worked on. And I want to share this with you, again, to create a little bit more transparency with the community. I don't want people thinking that everybody's trying to keep secrets from them all the time, and I understand part of that frustration. I just joined this team, so I wanted to bridge this gap a little bit. So this is what your feedback has contributed to so far, because we have the May update coming. So what is being worked on? And again, I can't give you specific information about anything, obviously. I'm just going to give you just general things that are being addressed. And also, everything that I say from here on out is based on current information that I have. All this is subject to change, because May is obviously not here. So just keep that in mind, that I'm not making any promises. Okay, this is based on what is happening right now and what I feel very strongly will be there in the May update. So, without further ado, what are some of the major reworks that are being done now? And I think it's an important point here to just make the distinction that we're not doing anything conceptually different. That will come way down the line when the Army book is being redesigned completely. So nothing that we're doing right now is conceptual. Most of the changes will be minor changes. Each book, though, gets 2, maybe 3 reworks, which are more significant changes. And so we've decided that these are 3 things that should be changed, like in a fairly significant way, for the update. And the number one thing on here is the Great Green Idol. I think most of you will be relieved that this is on here. This was definitely a high priority item. It's something that, you know, again, I can't say what exactly, but I can say that it's something that's being addressed, and that I'm very confident there will be some fairly significant changes in this for the May update. Okay. The second one, and I just abbreviated here, is Born to Fight. This is another one. I wouldn't even call it that significant of a change, but we are addressing it, and there is going to be a change. Again, based on the information that I have now, you will likely see a change in this for the May update. And without saying anything, all I can say is that I am excited about the things that I'm seeing. I'm very optimistic, I'm very positive, and this is me talking as an Orc and Goblin player who's itching to play with the army again. So take that as you will. And then the third thing is the Spider Shrine, which is kind of a curveball, but I think it's a good thing, because if you really think about it, when's the last time you've seen anybody take a Spider Shrine in a competitive setting? So this is something else where you're going to see pretty significant change for the May update. And again, this is one that I'm particularly excited about, because it's something that I don't really think about. I've never fielded it, and I know most people really have never fielded it, because it's just something that's kind of slipped into the background. You know, it's too expensive. There was a lot of issues with it. So these are the more major reworks. Now, the last slide that I'm going to show you here are what we call tickets. And this is, I think, a fairly new system that they're implementing here. And tickets just mean their design proposals, or their items in the book that we want to address. And basically how it works is each army book can submit how many ever tickets they want. There's no limit to them. But the more tickets you submit, the longer it's going to take for these other parties like ADT to get through them to make the changes that you want. So typically you want to submit tickets in the order of priority. So that's really all that means when I say tickets. But here are the tickets. Some of the tickets are being worked on, and I'm not showing you all of them. I'm just showing you ones that I think really matter and ones that have been talked about a lot. One of the tickets is the Goblin Witch Doctor. I've seen that a lot on the forums. Trolls is another one, and then Spider Riders. I've seen a lot of talk about Spider Riders lately in terms of having a role in the book. And the thing to keep in mind about tickets are that these are very minor changes. These are not going to be significant changes like the reworks that I just showed you. These are going to be much, like I said, just much more minor, not game-breaking or anything like that. Doesn't mean that they're not going to impact the book, but just keep that in mind. These are not going to be major conceptual changes. They're not going to be major changes in rules or anything like that. They're going to be fairly minor changes, because it is an update. That's how it's going to be treated. But I think the significant thing here is that these are things that you, the community, have talked about, and ACS has heard you, and this is before I even came in. This is James and Michael, and it's gone through the proper channels, and it's something that's being addressed. So wait till May, and we'll see what happens. And then lastly, again, hit the forums, message me anytime. Thank you for those of you that took the time to watch this video. I hope this was helpful. I hope that this was a positive video for Orc and Goblin players. If you're not an Orc and Goblin player and you know an Orc and Goblin player, please let them know about this video, or at least tell them to go onto the forums and talk to us, because we definitely want to help the Army book as much as possible, and get our community excited about playing Orcs and Goblins again. I want to see a resurgence into the tournaments that I go to of Orc and Goblin players. So that's about it. Hit like, subscribe, do all the YouTube stuff. Next on the docket, I plan this weekend hopefully to be putting up battle reports from Corner Hammer GT, which was a huge GT that just took place in Chicago. So I'm excited about that. But until next time, have a good one, guys.